Today is finally discharge day, and it is the 13th. Oh my god, I'm a hot mess. We had to stay an extra day because we were waiting on the results for his blood culture and his circumcision. My labor experience, my birth experience, my postpartum recovery experience so far, at least, like, everything has been perfect. Like, when I had pictured and imagined like how my labor, my birth, and my postpartum recovery was gonna go, it would have been exactly like this. I'm gonna just talk about my birth experience too, because I'm not gonna record it and put it in the beginning of this video whenever I'm already doing the intro now. So might as well just do it all at once, right? So my labor started on Saturday or Friday, because I labored for 2 days. Okay, so the 9th, I think it was like Saturday. Yeah, I was already in bed and he was still awake. Like, he was still awake playing the game and stuff. And like, all of a sudden I started to feel like cramps. My Braxton Hip cramps, like, they were very distinctive. Like, I was able to like tell, like, okay, my cramps is just like those false labor cramps, because like I would have my Braxton Hicks like over here on my side, but these cramps, they weren't painful. It just felt like, okay, like, I feel you, like, I feel my cramps, but it's not like, oh, like, they hurt, you know what I mean? And I was feeling them like down in my cervix. I get up and like I start like wanting like to clean. As like time kind of kept going on, I started still cramping and I was getting nauseous. That's how I know I'm getting closer to like having him, because obviously like I was 37 weeks, so I had like another 2-3 weeks. But I know like with my first, like with your first, like, it's always gonna be a longer pregnancy where you're gonna be up to like 40 weeks pregnant, unless they induce you at 39 weeks. So I like mentally I was already prepared to be pregnant for a long time and to get induced, right? But throughout my entire like pregnancy, I was telling my husband, I was just like, I really hope I don't get induced, because it's a lot worse. And like, you know, like, I just want my birthing experience to be like empowering, not necessarily forced or rushed, you know? And like I said, I was just like nauseous at first, and then I told him, I was just like, okay, like, my stomach hurts, like, I've been pooping, and like now like I feel like I gotta throw up. I was feeling nauseous for like maybe a good 30 minutes before I actually threw up. Usually, according to Google, you're pretty much in labor if it's both nausea. I mean, if it's 3 of those, like the cramping or the contractions, the nausea, and the loose stools. So at that point, I didn't know my labor had started. Well, still contracting. So I was contracting, and then like in my head, I'm just like, okay, these contractions. But to me, like I said, like, I didn't know I was in labor. So I was just like, these cramps. But the contractions, they were 2 to 3 minutes apart the whole time since 12 o'clock. Right? And I wasn't feeling nothing. Like I said, like no pain or nothing. So I didn't believe it, because like I was timing it from like the clock on my phone. So I started going on my contraction timer app and I was timing it. And sure enough, like, they were 2 to 3 minutes apart. I think we got here like at 11. Okay, so yeah, so at 11 in the morning, that's like what, like a whole 12 hours later, I'm still contracting. They're still 2 to 3 minutes apart. So from 11 all the way until 5, because I left the hospital at 5, I was having contractions the whole time and they were all 2 to 3 minutes apart or 3 to 5 minutes apart. So they were seeing that, and I was dilated at 2 centimeters. So they were asking me like, oh, you know, are you in pain? Like, are the contractions, like, are they hurting you? I'm just like, no. And they're like, oh, on a scale of 1 to 10. I was just like, really? It's more like a 0 or 1. And it only started hurting after they did to check how dilated I was. It literally feels, whenever you get checked to see how far you're dilated, it literally feels like I'm a cow and they're shoving their hand in there to like move my calf around, because that's just like how deep it feels like they're going. It, like, their whole hand feels like it's in there. I don't even know if it actually is their whole hand that actually goes up in there, but all I know is that it's very uncomfortable and it hurts. But it could also just be the fact that, like, you know, like, I'm pregnant. My cervix, of course, is going to be very sensitive and stuff, so who knows? But all I know is that getting the cervix is what freaking hurts. Getting your cervix checked is what hurts. So since they saw that I wasn't like dilating, obviously, and yeah, like they basically like just let me go. Ooh, excuse me. They basically just let me go at 5, and they were just like, oh, you know, your contractions are still going, like you're still contracting every 2 to 3 minutes, but you're not dilating or anything, so we'll probably see you next week, like 38 weeks pregnant. Like I was 37 weeks and 5 days on Saturday. Yeah, they were saying that, like, obviously I was gonna give birth sooner than my due date and sooner than like me getting induced and everything. But just, they didn't know how soon. They were just saying like maybe Monday or Tuesday I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna give birth. I go home. Again, I'm contracting still on the way home. I'm still contracting at home and everything. So at that point, like, I'm just like preparing myself like, okay, my contractions, they're gonna go away. I'm pretty sure they're gonna go away, right? Well, at 6 in the morning I had woken up because I had to pee, but I kind of felt wet, and I was worried like, okay, maybe my bleeding got worse or whatever. So I woke up like, you know, worried that I was bleeding. Well, whenever I saw it, it was just like clear liquid, like a little bit. So I was just like, okay, like, I don't know what that is, but I'm gonna just keep an eye on it. So whenever I actually went pee, while I was peeing, and then I had more liquid coming out. So after I get done, I tell him, I'm just like, I think my water broke. And he was like, what do you mean? And I was just like, well, I knew I was peeing because like I can see the color of my pee, and like I knew I was peeing, and I had other liquid like come out with my pee. So I called the hospital. I was just like, I think my water broke, and they were like, okay, well, what color was it? How much? How far are you? You know, all that. And they're like, just put a pad on to see if, like, you know, if it is really like your water breaking. So I'm on the phone with her, and as she's telling me like to get a pad on to see if I like soak it, I was just like, no, like I'm still leaking, like I could feel myself leaking. And she was like, okay, well, if you still feel it leaking for like the next 30 minutes, go ahead and come in. I was just like, okay, cool. So we already had put my hospital bag, we already had put his diaper bag, which I had packed literally Saturday at midnight whenever I was still up, because I was just like, I never packed the diaper bag, because obviously like I never made a video on it, and I never dropped that video because I didn't even have the diaper bag packed. So I literally did that last minute, and I had all my toiletry stuff in the car, like everything was left in the car, not knowing that we were already prepared for Sunday. My water just kept breaking, and I told him, I was just like, okay, like let me go ahead and shower, let me get my clothes together and everything, like so that way we can go to the hospital, because at this point like we're gonna have a baby because my water already broke.
They bring my son back?
No, it hasn't been 2 or 3 hours yet. Where was I at?
Looking into the highway hospital.
Oh yeah. So yeah, like we were already prepared like to be like coming back with baby. I was contracting after my water broke. And the whole time, like, my contractions were every 5 minutes from the house all the way to the hospital. Whenever I got here, they already had admitted me into labor and delivery. What time did we get to the hospital on Sunday? Like 10? I labor all the way through... When did I get the epidural? I think I got the epidural like what, an hour or two before he got born?
No, it was a few. You were at like 6.
I was at 6.
Yeah, you got it at 6. You got it halfway. You got it. You got born at 1 something. You got it at like 10:30. Oh yeah, because the doctor, I remember what time it was actually, because they hit him up at like 9:30, and I said you should have it by like 10:15.
Again, the cervical checks is what made it so much worse. Like, I was powering through my contractions. And like, they weren't painful at all until I kept getting the cervical checks done. And then mind you, I was already sore from Saturday from them checking me. So it made the contractions like a little bit more painful, but they were still like bearable. But when they kept coming back and just checking and like stimulating and like already touching something that's sore, it just made it so much worse. So when I got to 6 centimeters, the pain was just horrible to the point where like I was already crying in tears, and it was because of my cervix being sore. The epidural really didn't hurt. It was more like a bee sting. And I was just already in so much pain that I just didn't care what other pain I was feeling. I just didn't want to feel the dang cervix. So luckily though, like with the epidural, it didn't slow anything down. Oh, that's right, I forgot. At one point during my contractions, I didn't get the epidural at that point. But at one point, they had to give me Pitocin to keep my contractions going because my contractions had spaced out. Like I said, like, it wasn't the contractions that hurt. It was more my cervix from being touched so much that actually did hurt. And I felt it, like right where my cervix is. So I forgot to mention that I got the Pitocin. So once they started the Pitocin, I didn't know when they had cut it off. Because, like, at that point, after the epidural, I thought I still had the Pitocin. But when she had checked, she was just like, oh, we already had turned your Pitocin off like this whole time. Like, all these contractions have been new. I'm just like, dang. At 8 centimeters, they were like, okay, like, you know, you're going to give birth soon. And I think that's where 10:30 or 11 came in. Yeah, because I had to wait a whole nother hour. Okay, so yeah, so at 11, I was already at 8 centimeters. Or 10 to 11. Somewhere between 10 and 11 o'clock, I was already at 8. So, like, they were already preparing to, like, for me to give birth within, like, the next 30 minutes to an hour. However, I was stuck at 8 centimeters once 12 o'clock came around. And that's where things started, like, to, like, not go in my favor. Once she came back and she was, like, checking me, she was like, no, like, you're still at 8, maybe even a 9, but, like, you're still there and everything. Like, my water already had been broken for 12 hours. It was to the point where they were gonna prepare me for a C-section. And I did not, for the life of me, I did not want a C-section. I was trying to avoid it at all costs. And I was like, really, after she had walked out, after she had put me on my side to try to, like, get him to descend more into my pelvis, so that way, like, my pelvis can, like, open up a lot more for him and stuff. So once she had left, like, I was really, like, praying so freaking hard. I was like, look, whoever the higher power is, like, all the manifestations, like, words of affirmation, like, everything, like, I was literally putting everything into the universe, where I was just like, please, like, please descend quicker into my pelvis. Please, like, I'm not trying to have no C-section. Like, I'm not trying to have nothing. And I was getting really, really worried, because when they had came to put me on my other side, and that was the last position they were going to try to like really like that was it, like that was Hail Mary, like this is your last position to get the baby into your cervix, like into, you know, like into the canal, or that's it, like you gotta go into C-section. When they had put this other IV in me, because this one I already had it first, this is like the first IV they gave me and everything, so they gave me this one for the C-section. So that way they were already preparing me. And she was just like, oh, you need to remove jewelry. And she was looking at my nose ring. And I was like, I'm not removing nothing until I know for sure that that's what we got to do, because I'm not going to want to prepare for something that I don't want to prepare for and like try to manifest it. You know what I mean? After she had walked out, like literally within 5 minutes of her walking out, I already have felt the pressure of him being like low. But I was like, in my head, I was just like, no, like I'm so numb that I really don't feel nothing. So it's just like, could this just be the pressure like I just been feeling this whole time, like where he's just like really like low into my pelvis, but he's just not in the canal yet. So like I was telling myself like, okay, just give it another 5 minutes. Like if you're still feeling that pressure, like literally where there's a dang poop in my butt, then like then I'll like say like, hey, like I think, you know, he's there. So 5 minutes goes past and I'm just like, oh my God, like I really feel that pressure. Like go tell her like I feel that pressure. So he gets up and goes gets her, and at this point like I'm keeping everything crossed. Like I have everything crossed. I'm just like, please tell me that yes, like you're a 10, like we're ready for you to push. So when she came in and she did the cervical check, she was like, oh yeah. I was just like, yes, like that was it. Like that was what I needed to hear. That's where the birth process literally sped up, because she went to go get everybody and he was already coming down by himself. They were getting the whole like room ready for him. But they're walking around, like they just kept looking and they're like, yeah, he's knocking at your door, like he's there. Like his hair is there and everything. I'm just like, oh my God. And I just feel all like, I just like feel like the pressure like down there, you know? And I can feel like every single time like I was just like laughing, because like they're literally like walking past, like looking. I'm just like, what the heck? So whenever I was laughing, like I could feel like him moving more. So I was just like, let me not laugh, because apparently like this boy's gonna birth himself. Once the doctor came in, I literally pushed. How many pushes did I do? Like 4?
Remember he told you that he skipped the contraction and then he made you go again, and it was like right. It was like 3 times back to back when she told you basically not to hold your breath. You push you push a good about 8 times. No more than 10 total. No more than 10 total.
I know, because she was like, oh, do you feel your contractions? I was like, no. And then that's whenever they had to pay attention to the monitor, but my contractions are coming back to back, that they had to like really time it. So all I know is that like with the actual like couple pushes, like he was out. And I remember whenever he was out, like,
also don't ever look for the baby when it comes out.
You did it twice.
I know.
Was it the last time that she was like, you okay?
Yeah. I didn't look after that.
Like I didn't feel any of the contractions, so I didn't know when to push. They were just telling me like, okay, take a deep breath and go. Like I said, like he was so low and like already like in the canal that I just didn't know exactly how much he was like coming out on his own. So when he finally popped out, I was still pushing. And he was just like, oh, you don't have to push no more. Like, I'm already cleaning his mouth. Like, your baby's out. Like, don't push. So I remember saying, like, cleaning his mouth. I'm just like, when did he come out? Like, how long has it been? Like, where was I? That is enough for my intro, because I already had talked about my birth experience there. And now that I finished that, it's time to get myself together and get ready, because we should be leaving in the next hour or 2. Oh, I forgot to mention that I overpacked for my recovery, because like, you know how I did the whole padsicles and stuff like that. So I'm actually very grateful that I didn't have to use all the stuff that I thought I had to use. So all I really have been using is just the disposable underwear and then just the big pads that they give you here. And the dermoplast. They give you the dermoplast, the peri bottle. So I didn't tear. I just have a scratch on my right labia, I think it was, and the tucks. I've been using the tucks.
Every second, every minute, man, I swear that she can get it. Saying, bad bitch, put your hands up high, hands up high, hands up high. Tell them dim the lights down right now, put me in the booth. I'm talking about dark room perfume. Go.
I recognize your fragrance. Hold up, you ain't never gotta say shit. And I know your taste is a little bit high maintenance. Everybody else basic. You live life on an everyday basis with poetic justice. Poetic justice. If I told you that a flower bloomed in a dark room, would you trust it? I mean, I write poems in these songs dedicated to you when you're in the mood for empathy. There's blood in my pen. Better yet, with your friends and them. I really wanna know you off. I really wanna show you off. Fuck God, pour up plenty of champagne. Cold nights when you curse this name. You called up your girlfriends and y'all curled in that little bitty range. I heard that she wanna go and party. She wanna go and party. Nigga don't approach her with that Atari. Nigga that ain't good game home is sorry. They say conversation rule a nation. I can tell, but I could never write my